Welcome to Oulton Park for this season opening race meeting for the BRSCC. It's the first race meeting here at Oulton Park in 2020 as well, with this delayed start to the season that we've all had to endure, and we're here for a full day of action. 12 races coming your way around a rather damp Oulton Park International circuit, including the opening rounds of the 2020 Dunlop Touring Car Trophy incorporating TCR UK. We've got 3 races coming your way in the immediate future just before the lunch break, and as you can see, cars are out on circuit already for our first race, which is for the Avon Tyres National and Northern Formula Ford Championships. We've got a capacity grid, 35 drivers qualified this morning, and it is so nice to see that despite everything going on in the world, and we know that there have been some pretty serious financial ramifications to everything going on recently, we still have a really well supported championships at the BRSCC, and Formula Ford really going from strength to strength at the moment. It is more and more becoming a really viable step on the single-seater racing ladder, and indeed we've got a couple of drivers racing with us today who have previous experience in things like British Formula 4, and they are all going to be pushing hard to try and get that coveted National Formula Ford trophy over a shortened season, but 8 races I believe we will have over the course of the year, 2 of which will take place today. So the cars lining up on the grid then. As you can see, the conditions are less than ideal, although it's sort of stopped raining. It's certainly not been that heavy for the last half an hour or so. So now that we get racing underway, we should start to see a lot of the standing water disappear. No doubt about it, though, it'll still be quite treacherous out there in the early stages. Neil McLennan is on pole position for this first race. He set a lap time of a 2 minutes 5.454 in qualifying, just over a tenth of a second quicker than Chris Middlehurst, who's had a real resurgence over the recent past. Rory Smith and Jonathan Brown, the festival winner from Brands Hatch last year, on the second row, and Ross Martin back to defend his 2019 title, starts the race from 5th on the grid, with Matt Cowley, another regular front-runner previously in the Northern Championship, these days a top driver in the National Championship as well. And here is the grid that we can have a look at. There's confirmation of those first 3 rows. McLennan and Middlehurst, Smith and Brown on row number 2, Ross Martin and Matt Cowley on row 3, all 6 of those potential race winners. Then Jamie Sharp, one of those drivers who I mentioned had Formula 4 experience. He's got Grant Palmer for company on row 4. On row 5, Ollie White and Morgan Quinn. And the 6th row for Adrian Campfield, another one to watch I reckon, an American driver, Bryce Aaron. David MacArthur is a familiar name here at Oulton Park in the Northern Championship, so is Jack Wolfenden. They share the 7th row ahead of Alex Walker and Milan Delart, with Luke Cooper languishing down in 17th alongside Thomas Ward. Then Rhys Lysett and Andrew Thomas. Peter Daly, chairman of the BRSCC, is on row 11 with Nigel Dolan. Then Neil Patton and Neil MacArthur. Neil Plimmer, former Fun Cup champion, running down in 25th on the grid. He is a former champion, though, of Formula Ford racing. It is a field packed full of competitive drivers in both the national and northern elements of the race. The lights, though, are out. We're away and racing for 20 minutes around the Oulton Park International Circuit. And who gets the jump off the line? It looks like a good start made by McLennan from pole position. Look at the spray, though, back in the middle of the pack. It is almost impossible to see where you're going through that first corner. They make their way down the avenue for the first time into Cascades, and is that Jonathan Brown up into second? I think it might be. So McLennan leads the way, but Jonathan Brown from 4th on the grid is up into 2nd in his Ray. Then the battle for 3rd going on. Chris Middlehurst and Rory Smith the other way round, though. I think Smith ahead of Chris Middlehurst as they make their way down the Lakeside Straight for the first time of asking. And in these treacherous conditions, the drivers have to be wary. They have to be cautious of standing water. They have to try and stay off the white lines, off the painted curbs. Don't run out onto that grass, because that is a one-way ticket to the barriers. And everyone also, of course, trying to get some track position here and get out of that ball of spray. Got Matt Cowley there having a little look up the inside of Ross Martin. That was the fight, I believe, for 5th place as they made their way around. So down through the chicane they come then for the first time, and everyone just trying to survive the opening lap, I think, more than anything else. Oh, Rory Smith gets a wheel on the grass there, turning into Knickerbrook Corner. That should lose him speed off the corner, and on the run up the hill, he may be under some pressure from the car behind. coming through though towards the end then of this first lap of racing of the day. And actually, apart from that little moment, I haven't seen anybody going grass tracking. No one's been off the road. It's been, we're going to pan back to a car off the road, aren't we? Of course we did. One of the northern runners, I think they're towards the back of the field having a moment at Hislops. But for the lead contenders, they are up at Druids for the first time. And Jonathan Brown then, the man on a mission, dominated the Formula Ford Festival at Brands Hatch at the back end of last year. He won his heat, he won his semi-final, and he dominated the final. Won it by a fairly comfortable margin as well in dry conditions. Now though in the wet, he is looking strong as well. So McLennan leads the opening lap then. Brown second, Smith third. They make their way down the Lakeside Straight. Then McLennan leads, Brown second, Smith third, Middlehurst fourth, Ross Martin fifth, so he stayed where he was on the grid. Ollie White has gained a position as well. He's up into seventh position, so Ollie White, who does tend to go quite well in the wet, is continuing to do so again here at Oulton Park. And now the drivers have survived the first lap. I think we'll start to see a few of them getting a bit more racy. It's only a 15-minute race, this, remember. The Formula Ford races are a little bit shorter than a lot of other races that we tend to see on these sort of meetings. And so they've really got to try and get a move on. There's number 14 going through, a little bit further down, sorry, 41, excuse me. That is Walker down in 17th place. And he's got a real train of cars right behind him, including people like Reese Lysett, who has recently made the step across from F1000 competition. That's sort of slicks and wings motorbike engine class. This is a little bit different. He's probably got a bit less aerodynamic grip that he's used to. So up through Druids they go for the second time, and Neil McLennan was starting to get away slightly from Jonathan Brown earlier on in the lap. I'm not sure if that is still the case. There are a couple of the other his teammates a little bit further down the order, and still spray continuing to be a pretty significant issue here as the field make their way through. Fastest lap of the race set by Rory Smith in third position, so Smith looking every bit as quick as the cars immediately in front of him. He was third fastest in qualifying, but he does appear to have found a little bit more pace now. That's often the way in the race conditions. Drivers that maybe race better than they qualify can quite often find themselves mixing it at the front, but he's just at the fastest lap, and the top three are covered by just half a second after the first 2 laps of competition. There's a car off though at Druids. It's one of the Oldfield cars that's gone off. Might that be number 77, I wonder, because that car has not come through. This is the lead pack sliding its way through. Yeah, Daniel McIntosh, I believe, is the driver that we've had off at Druids. He didn't appear to have hit anything, so he should be okay to carry on. This, though, is the battle for the race lead, and Rory Smith is already into second, ahead of Jonathan Brown, and now he wants the race lead away from Neil McLennan. The weather conditions may be pretty atrocious out there, but this is exactly the kind of nose-to-tail racing we were expecting from the National Formula Ford Championship. Look at this, first, second, third and fourth, all within a big ball of spray, but only inches apart as they come down the hill into the Hislop chicane. McLennan then leading, but Rory Smith, the red and white car in second place, the man on the move. He appears to have the pace, runs a bit wide there through Knickerbrook, but that could be where the grip is. He's had a good exit from the corner, and he will pull to the left-hand side over Clay Hill. This is a really tricky place to run side by side, and I think he thought better of that, then backed out of it and stays in second position. But McLennan under all sorts of pressure here from Rory Smith. Through they come, Smith in second, Brown still there in third, and Chris Middlehurst in fourth. So Ross Martin, the reigning champion, doesn't appear to have the pace of this leading quartet. There he is, the white car sort of detached from them in fifth position. So through Lodge they go then, all of them taking that wide line, just trying to find the grip, find the momentum, coming off the corner, and then accelerating across the start-finish line to be greeted by a safety car board. So yellow flag, safety car is out. Now, is this because of McIntosh's car off at Druids? He is the only one that didn't come through last time, so I'm assuming that he is the driver that has brought about the safety car. I have to say I didn't notice whether or not he was still stuck in position up at the double apex right-hander at Druids. That's a shame because, yes, indeed, there is McIntosh's car, so the Oldfield Motorsport driver, unfortunately, out of the race. The car doesn't appear to be damaged as such, but I would imagine he's stalled the car, and they're not always the easiest of things to start back up again once that happens, so that is the reason for a safety car. Now, it is sometimes the case in Formula Ford racing that because they're 15-minute races rather than the traditional 20-minute races, they sometimes add time back on at the end of the race as a result of safety cars, but we're pretty pushed for time today at Oulton Park. We've got racing due to run right up to the 6:30 p.m. Curfew, so it may not be possible to do that on this occasion. We'll wait and see, but the time is continuing to tick down. No, I think they've already added an extra 5 minutes on, so we're back at 12 minutes and 20 seconds remaining, and I suppose any time that gets used up now they will aim to take out of the lunch break a bit later on. So the order then, McLennan leads the way, Smith second with the fastest lap, some bodywork I think there being recovered down at the Hislop chicane. Jonathan Brown dropping down to third again after that really good start that he had. Fourth for Middlehurst, with Ross Martin, the reigning champion, in fifth. Matt Cowley sixth, Ollie White is in seventh, Jamie Sharp is eighth, David MacArthur ninth, and Bryce Aaron is in 10th position. So Bryce Aaron racing pretty well at the moment. Bryce started 12th, so he's only gained 2 positions, but definitely a front runner. Now, one of the drivers that I thought would be towards the sharp end is Adrian Campfield. Started 11th place, did Adrian, and he has lost a position. He's down to 12th, actually, but Adrian is a former front-running contender in Formula Ford racing, then went on to have a pretty successful career over in Europe, racing in things like European Formula 3. So Adrian is a very quick driver, making the decision to come back to the National Formula Ford Championship this year. I know he, along with many other drivers out there today, have been keeping themselves sharp over this lockdown period with a lot of sim racing and esports competition, which he had quite a lot of success in as well. So Adrian Campfield perhaps struggling a bit here with general lack of running and the wet conditions, but I think as the season goes on could become a contender for race wins. But Neil McLennan already looking like is he the favourite? I don't know. Rory Smith looked a little bit pacier before the safety car came out. He will not have welcomed the sight of the yellow flags and the safety car boards at the end of that lap, because he was really starting to set up for a move for the lead. So back over Clay Hill we come then, and hopefully this won't take too long to get the car cleared out of the way. As I say, it hadn't made the barrier, so there's no significant damage done there. You can see the tow truck looked like it was in position to move it and then left the scene. So the car is still stuck at the side of the road. Marshals in attendance, and of course limits these days on the amount of marshals that are allowed on posts, and all because of the COVID-19 restrictions that have been brought in to not just the UK's racetracks but around the world. But our hard-working British marshals are doing a splendid job in not particularly pleasant conditions and under harder circumstances than normal. So a big shout out to the Orange Army as they now do get that car hooked up onto the rope and towed out of harm's way. Not quite in time though to go racing this time. We're going to get another lap behind the safety car. So last year in the National Formula Ford Championship, Ross Martin really was the man to beat. It was a pretty competitive season, but in the second half of the year, Ross really started to extend the margin, in the end winning the championship with a round to spare. He actually wrapped the title up at Silverstone before the final couple of rounds of the championship, and that meant that he could relax and prepare for the end of season Brands Hatch Formula Ford Festival and Walter Hayes Trophy events, neither of which he was able to win, unfortunately, which I know is something that he'll regret. And as well as trying to launch another title assault in 2020, he's going to be looking to maybe come back at the end of the season and get those two very special awards as well. The 49th running of the Brands Hatch Formula Ford Festival will take place towards the end of this year. But for now, the drivers very much concentrating on the National and Northern Championships. Don't forget, we've got the two grids combined here, which is part of the reason we've got this capacity grid, but 20 or more of the drivers out there are racing in the pro class for the National Championship. And at the moment, it looks like car number 38 is leading the northern element of the race. And that is one of the cars that started a little bit further down the field. But that's interesting. There isn't number 38 on. Oh, yes, there is. Andrew Thomas. Yes, Andrew Thomas in his McGall leading the northern element of the race. The Northern Championship series that, as the name would suggest, is based in the north of the country, predominantly here at Oulton Park and at Anglesey over in Wales, with the occasional away day to somewhere like Donington Park or Silverstone, maybe down to the Midlands. But a really hotly contested championship in its own right, actually. Lots of loyal drivers who have been racing in the championship for a number of years, and it also attracts a fair few drivers that we see racing at national level who want to get a bit more track time maybe in the car. And as I said, it tends to be a championship that runs about 5 or 6 events up here in the northwest of the country. And the spectators that we have here at Oulton Park today will be very familiar with a lot of the drivers out on track right now. Brilliant news that spectators were allowed to attend race meetings at all MSV circuits for the delayed start of the season. And the spectators we have got here today are, I'm sure, going to be taking cover from the atrocious weather, but as an Oulton Park regular myself, I know that it doesn't tend to put them off. It's a very well supported circuit. Lots of the locals tend to come and enjoy the racing here at Oulton Park. But today, thankfully, if you didn't fancy braving the elements, at least you've got the live stream to keep you up to date with all of the action, which hopefully will resume at the end of this lap, because I'm pretty sure that they've moved the number 77 car out of the way. Yep, the safety car's disappeared from shot. So we're going to go racing again this time, and this battle for the lead is set to resume. Neil McLennan was under a lot of pressure from Rory Smith before the safety car came out, and now that it's coming back in again, let's see whether or not Rory is able to continue that attack and maybe find a way through. We're going to have about 5.5 minutes of racing left, so that's time for another 2, maybe 3 laps. Lap times were just over 2 minutes. And so we should get another, at least 2, as I say, maybe a 3rd lap in as well. Right, leaders have gone, so McLennan accelerates. Good restart for he and Smith. Not so on his toes, though, was Jonathan Brown in 3rd, so he's going to be under pressure from Middlehurst and Martin behind him. Over the elite we come then. We are racing once again. 5 laps in the books for round number 1 of the Avon Tyres National and Northern Formula Ford 1600 Championships. And off into Old Hall Corner they go, the field streaming its way through. And the rain, I have to say, has got a little bit heavier whilst the safety car was out, so there may be a bit more standing water out there as well. But that will not deter these drivers at the front of the field from racing hard. McLennan taking the wide line there through Cascades Corner and down the Lakeside Straight, but it looks as though maybe Rory Smith was off the corner better. He tucks into the slipstream, tries to get a run down into Island Bend. It is a tricky part of the circuit to run wheel to wheel, though, in the dry, let alone in the wet conditions. And I don't think Rory Smith is quite close enough to have a go. Well, he takes a slightly tighter line in, but just looking to try and get some visibility, really. If you run in the wheel tracks of the car in front of you, you cannot see where you're going, so sometimes you will see drivers taking some slightly weird and wacky lines just to try and get a clear line of sight into the next corner. So leaders then head out of Shell through the right-hander into the Britain chicane, the first of these 2 chicanes in quick succession at Oulton Park, scrabbling for grip coming out of the right-hander there. And over hilltop we go again. Now, where does Rory Smith make his move? He looks a bit quicker, but where is he going to be able to find a way through? Down into the chicane, they're starting to stack up again here. Look, Jonathan Brown and Chris Middlehurst are back on their tail, and here comes the move. Oh, no, there's not quite room up the inside there. McLennan was taking the traditional line into Knickerbrook Corner, and Rory Smith thought for a second that he might be able to sneak up the inside, but again, discretion is the better part of valour. It may be a short season, this, but that doesn't mean that you can afford to take too many risks in the early stages. If you wreck your car now, you may not be able to get back out there again in race number 2, and because it is a short season, consistency, I think, will be key. 1 or 2 non-finishes are going to completely derail a potential championship campaign. So through the final turn, once again, up towards the timing beam. This will be the completion of lap 6. And look at the way that McLennan is starting to stretch away again now, as the field blasts past my commentary position. And, well, yeah, he was quicker there. 0.7 of a second is now the margin. Side-by-side action behind. And Matt Cowley is dropping down the timing screen. Have we lost Matt Cowley, I wonder, out on track? The yellow and black car, I don't think, has come through. So Matt Cowley, as I said, a former front runner and championship contender in the Northern Championship, not having a great start to the season. He has come through in 23rd place. So Matt Cowley has definitely had a whoopsie somewhere on that lap, and that's dropped him out of the top 10. It elevates the number 30 machine now of Grant Palmer back into the top 10. Grant started 8th and had fallen down a few positions over the early stages of the race. Into Shell again then, and taking the wide line there through the banked hairpin. Side-by-side action here in the middle of the field. Now this looks as though it might be the number 41 car of Walker again. Alex Walker there in the Van Diemen trying to get up the inside, but the inside is not always the grippiest part of the racetrack. And the line that has the most rubber laid down in the dry, that tends to get quite slippery in the wet, so the drivers were saying that they really need to stay off that racing line, but the track's so narrow it's hard to do that. Oh, one car straight on at the chicane. Who's that? I think that is the 41 car of Walker again, isn't it? This yeah, takes the 23, excuse me, that is. So it's one of his teammate cars, and that was Bryce Aaron, who the American driver who was running inside the top 10. Bryce Aaron has straight lined the Hislop chicane. Shouldn't cop a penalty for that. I don't think he gained any advantage from that, but definitely needs to try to stick to the pre-agreed racetrack down at the chicane. And through Druid's corner. Oh, and off wide. Oh dear, there's a car into the barriers, and that was a wheel on the grass turning into the corner. We're going to see a replay, I believe, of what happened. Druid's corner. It was car number 88. Yes, I thought it was. So number 88, that's Morgan Quinn, and who was running in 11th position at the start of the lap. I think he'd actually lost a bit of ground at the start of that lap, but yeah, he has gone off into the barriers, and that will bring about the red flag, unfortunately. So the race is being stopped prematurely, and that, again, a great shame, because it was building up to be a great five-way battle, actually, for the race win there between Smith, McLennan, Middlehurst, Brown and Martin. That should be the order they finish in. I don't think there were... Well, no, Chris Middlehurst had snuck past Jonathan Brown somewhere. Oh, there's another car off down at Knickerbrook, number 65. That is Jack Wolfenden, who was running in 15th place. So 2 cars have left the circuit. This one down at Knickerbrook, and then Morgan Quinn up at the very next corner through the double apex right-hander at Druids. New livery on that Jack Wolfenden car, I noticed. Thankfully, he hasn't damaged it, but there's a car there with 3 wheels. I'm no mechanic, but that is not what that car is supposed to look like. I can't even tell who it is, because the entire... it's one of the Oldfield cars, isn't it? It's not been a good day for the Oldfields. And... might be car number 2, yeah, so there is a number 2, that's a start, and that is quite a lot of rear damage to the car. It is one of the Oldfield cars, and it appears to be, well, certainly going no further. That's Milan Delart, one of our international drivers racing with us, who has clearly been involved in contact. Now, was that with Jack Wolfenden, I wonder, because the 2 of them are off at the same place. Of course, what's also possible is that as he slowed down for the red flag, someone behind in the spray perhaps didn't see that he was slowing down. That is always a danger in the wet conditions. So 3 cars then off, Jack Wolfenden, Milan Delart and Morgan Quinn, and as a result the red flag has to fly. So that means that Rory Smith is being called the race leader according to my timing screen, but I'm pretty sure it'll end up being Neil McLennan, because the result should go back a lap. So it should be McLennan, Smith, Brown. All of that actually changed on the final lap of the race, though, so we'll wait and see if we can get official confirmation of the result. But that is an unfortunate way to end our first race of the day. It was an entertaining one up until that point. There's Jack Wolfenden, who will trudge back through the gravel trap, do the walk of shame in front of the spectators down at Knickerbrook. Always a popular place to watch the racing. You can see why, because there's plenty of action down at that particular part of the track. So our first race then comes to a slightly premature conclusion here for the Avon Tyres National and Northern Formula Ford Championships.